My mother grew up in Nazi Germany. She was born in 1920. And when she managed to escape the Third Reich just before war broke out, so in July 1939, and by a stroke of good fortune, managed to find a sponsor and a job in England. She was a nurse, and the sponsor got her a place at St James's Hospital in Leeds to continue nursing training. So she arrived in July 1939, started at St James's in, I think, sort of end of August, beginning of September. And then, of course, as soon as war broke out, she was, shortly after that, she was an enemy alien because she was the hospital that she was at had become a military hospital, so she wasn't allowed to stay there, and she was sent off to a fever hospital somewhere on the outskirts of Leeds. I'm not sure where it was, which she didn't like at all, and left her friends that she suddenly made. And then in May 1940, she was interned along with thousands and thousands of other enemy aliens on the Isle of Man. She spent 15 months on the Isle of Man before her case came up before the tribunal. And then she was freed straight away and sent back to St James in Leeds. And the thing I think I've kind of missed out there is that when my mother came to England on a hard-to-get visa, she was very much expecting to be able to send for her mother and two youngest brothers pretty quickly as soon as she was settled. But with war having broken out, that was made impossible. And as far as I know, she didn't hear from her mother and her two little brothers again. Okay, so there are a number of things. I think the one that principally stands out for me is that interning enemy with people who are loyal to the country is such a waste of resources, of skills, of a waste of everybody's time and money. Unfortunately, the feeling in Britain in May 1940 was that France had fallen, Norway had been invaded, and there was genuine fear of invasion. And people would, genuinely thought that Hitler would be on the doorstep pretty soon. Interestingly enough, a side effect of having interned all German and Austrians on the Isle of Man meant that if Hitler had invaded, he would have had all the Jewish people really just where he wanted them, which was all in one place, which was an unintended consequence, of course. But thinking back to your question, I think that the waste of people, locking them away when they could be doing something useful, and that applies very much today. The fact that people are not allowed to work, they're waiting for months and months, some years in detention centres. When there's lots of people with skills who want to work, they want to be economically active, they want to do their bit for having found a safe place in this country, and that is no different from how it was in 1940. It was actually sponsored by a lady who didn't know her. What happened was that sponsors had to pay a considerable sum, which was £50, which is about £2,500 in today's money. That was to make sure that refugees were not a burden on the state. But a lady in Leeds who happened to be a Quaker, also happened to be German, sponsored my mother. She was a very vague, distant family friend and knew nothing of her. And through her kindness, my mother's life was saved. To have no understanding of what makes people leave everything they know and hold dear, their families, their friends, the language, their country, everything about it, what makes them be in such fear of their lives that they have to flee and take some very perilous journeys in order to get to safety. And I think that there's something somehow missing from the government's view that doesn't understand. People don't take those journeys without good cause. We become passionate to other human beings, full stop. It's about being kind, being helpful, realizing that we're in a very, very lucky position in the West, that we've been born into a situation where we hope we're never going to be hungry, we're never going to be be persecuted. We're just in such a privileged position that I believe it's our moral and ethical duty to look after people who aren't in that position. And I think something else I'd add in there is that thinking about climate change, the mass migration of hundreds of thousands and millions of people is going to get worse. There'll be more parts of the world which can't be lived in, particularly in sub-Saharan Africa. We have a duty to look after people in some way. I don't know what way, but in some way, who have escaped this terrifying droughts and famines.